You are listening to The Joyce Aldrich Show at CHAJ 1610 AM. La voz de la comunidad, Toronto.
So much potential here at the Joyce Aldrich Show, and I've got a wonderful guest in studio with me tonight, and we have Vince Mancuso in. He's a dynamic creative and creative in so many ways. He brings like over 35 years of experience in advertising, education, television, publishing. He's has expertise with talent management experience, skilled in painting, illustration, design, photography. He's an all-around artist, and he has quite a creative eye. And he sees, like that Be Creative song, you know, he sees everything around us, and that's what the artist does. And they turn life into art and help us to see life in a different way. So, welcome to the show, Vince. Vince Mancuso. Boy, oh boy, so wonderful to have you here. And I always enjoy our conversations when we have them off air.
Well, thanks for having me, Joyce. And happy Mother's Day.
Thank you very much. That's great. Yeah. No, I had a wonderful Mother's Day, and I'm sure Jennifer and the kids had a great day today.
Yeah. We had a great breakfast and hanging out and, running out for some goodies for later movie night, and snuggle up and do what we like to do.
Yeah, but you're here now. This is
for now. Yeah, for now.
You're going to snuggle up with us for an hour or two, and I'm so happy we have you. So let's talk about your career. Basically, you've had well, I know you're waiting for my questions, but I need you to tell me more about why you're an artist. You know, you come from an Italian background. Tell me a bit about your background, and both you and your brother are amazing artists. I just had Dominic Mancuso in here a couple of weeks ago, and now I've got Vince Mancuso in. I got the brothers, you know.
You got the older brother,
I got the older brother now, But the thing is that you helped produce that's another thing. You helped produce his first album, and it won a Juno.
Yeah, well,
you had some input into that.
The thing was that when Dom started putting that together, I think maybe about 10 years earlier, I had been introduced into this folk music, Sicilian folk music, by an artist named Rosa Ballesteri.
Right.
And I was blown away. There was this kind of almost like a Mediterranean blues, this guttural, and I saw these connections to this sort of grassroots folk music. Lament almost had the flamenco thing, reminded me a lot of American blues music, and I taught myself these songs.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. Well, I was so taken. If something gives me the goosies, you've heard me talk about that. It really gets to me on that kind of physical level. It's telling me that you need to get a handle on this. So I taught myself the songs, and then I insisted that my brother learn the repertoire. And I said, Dom, you got to learn this music. And it was an interesting time, that period. This was like the late 90s. And, there was the whole multicultural dynamic that was happening in Canada and so on. And, I thought at great length about, as you pointed out earlier, I'm an Italian, I'm a Canadian, but from an Italian ancestry from Sicily. My parents.
Your dad came here, though.
My dad and mom, in 54, 55,
like many Italians who came here at that time.
Yeah, all of that
kind
of thing.
You're so fortunate, yeah.
And there's a thing about our culture, like we're family-oriented. We love our mothers. We're devoted to our families and our extended families and the community and so on and so forth. And so here we are growing up in North America, and we're experiencing all kinds of, pop music and rock and rock and roll and blues and funk, But at the same time, we were never... we were never, at odds with the tango or the tarantella or a really good polka. We grew up, adoring our social lives, with our community, the weddings, the communions, and so on and so forth. So here we are in a North American culture, where we're very amicable to many experiences, and when that whole thing came around, it was like, Dom, I remember having these long conversations with him, you don't have to be just a rock, you don't have to be just you don't have to be any, you love all music, we've got a lot of scope culturally, I think it would be amazing if you included this incredible repertoire that Rosa Ballesteri had put together. Yeah. And he learned it. He learned it, and he sang at my wedding a cappella one of the tunes. For me. And I think as the years went on, and Dom, I think mentioned about how he created the Juno winning album as to pay honor,
homage to your mom. Yeah.
And he kind of brought all that music together, and it's a fascinating thing about that album, because that album is sung in Italian, and that won, the highest musical award you could win in this country, and it's not even,
English,
we have two first languages, right? We got the French and the English, and this was a record sung in Italian, right? Yeah. And it was a testimony, I think, to our culture and how, our tolerance and how we embrace diverse experiences.
Okay, so on that note, your artwork also does that, I find. The way you approach your painting, for instance.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. My wife likes to say that I paint ghosts, And to some degree, I think she's absolutely correct. I paint historical ghosts. And, being because think about it. Growing up here, when I was going to school, I was an Italian.
Yeah.
When I was at home, I was a Canadian. Right?
Interesting.
So I would, my
sort
parents.
of a flip.
That's right. My parents, my uncles called me a munja cake all the time.
Yeah, the munja
You're a
cakes,
munja cake.
yeah.
Stop being such a munja cake. Where you learning this crazy stuff, like at the munja cake school where you go, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I became very conscious of this old world, new world, this split, these divides, right? These differences.
Right.
And it was always a strong point of curiosity. I spent most of my life digging deep and trying to get to the core of these ideas as opposed to focusing on the differences.
That's very important, unity.
I think so.
As opposed to diversity. I always talk about that.
Yeah.
That's my deal.
The key thing with all things is reduce it down to the lowest common denominator. Get to the universal nugget of knowledge and the concept at its most reductivist, state.
Do you find that's where truth lies, in some ways, or where does that?
Not so much truth, but I think the condition.
Yeah.
The condition of life, the condition of the universe, right?
Okay.
I mean, think about it. Einstein reduced, the entire universe to an equation, right?
E equals MC squared.
That's right. You're getting it down, right?
Interesting.
The ideas of culture, spirituality, beliefs, practices, it's all has a common starting point, right? It might diversify because geographically, on the planet, you're in a different location. You're in a winter culture versus a tropical culture, and the colors might be different.
Yep.
The costume might be different. But the very essence of the practice, the ritualistic practice, whether it's music, art, or whatever, has a universal constant.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's like art, music, theater, drama, life. And it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. There is a universal constant to it. Your paintings are evocative. They are they're very deep. Like Jennifer says, you paint ghosts, but it's almost like soul. There's and heroes. And we're going to talk about the hero thing next segment. About Batman, how that's important to you, and
right.
and the whole hero thing. And how you're always sketching, and how important it is for artists to always be honing their craft. There's so many things we can talk about in this short time, and we're going to address as much as possible during this time. But
cool.
But your mom and dad, were they particularly artistic?
Well, they came here with nothing, and they left a devastated Sicily. Some broken families. The post-war and so on. So there was no time for that. I truly believe that my mother was quite a brilliant woman. And what I found out later, actually at the age of 25, after I had graduated OCAD, I don't know why they never told me, but my grandmother was an artist and an artisan, and she used to do hand-painted silks.
Beautiful.
For the churches in Sicily. And she was a seamstress and made wedding dresses. So my mother's side, who were affluent, right? And then they kind of went through some financial troubles and so on and so forth. I think she was very talented, very educated. Her family was very much part of the clergy.
Okay.
So I think that's where some of the root, genes, where they lay.
And it is in the DNA. Creativity.
I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
Listen, part of creativity is how you're wired.
Yeah.
And how you see the world, how it affects you, right? And where you focus your energies, And that's a bloodline thing, an ancestry thing. It's in the genes.
It is. And so we're going to go to break very shortly, and when we come back, we're going to play a little song called The Painter Man. I don't think you've ever heard this song before.
I'm really curious.
Yeah, it's a great song.
to college, studied art. To be an artist, make a start. Studied hard, gained my degree, but no one seemed to notice me. Painter man, who would be a painter man? Painter man, who would be a painter man? Tried cartoons and comic books, dirty postcards, women's books. Here was where the money lay. Classic orders had its day. Painter man, who would be a painter man? Painter man, who would be a painter man? Do adverts for TV, household soap and brands of tea, labels all around tin can. Who would be a painter man? Painter man, who would be a painter man? Painter man, who would be a painter man? La la la, la la la, la la la, la 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 la. Painter man, who would be a painter man?
And that's the creation with Painter Man from their album Music Is, let me see, Red and Purple Flashes. And
Wow. Wow. I love that, Joyce. I love that. That was amazing. Was that recorded in the 60s? It's got that 60s sound.
Yeah, it's probably late 60s, early 70s. Yeah, this is one from one of my archives of music I have at
Amazing.
home. Yeah.
Like that is just me. I love it.
It is.
Painter man. I love
You're
it.
Painter Man, all right. And, and you've done all of those things, whether it's film, TV, ads, storyboards.
I did.
You've done all that. So
I
talk
did.
about your career. Like, what all of those things that
Well,
you did,
Okay, so, imagine the child of immigrants, heading on down to the Ontario College of Art Design University, in the late 70s.
They didn't tell you to get a job?
Of course they did, but I just, stubbornly just, decided this is what I'm going to do, whether you like it or not,
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, I'm a blue-collar boy.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking.
I watched my parents, make their money working piecework, getting paid by the unit on an assembly line, and they became good at it and worked hard all day long, So I go to, OCAD, and there's this airy-fairy, like remnants of the 60s, late 70s way, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's living in La La Land, They're just going to somehow be artists and this. Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
Those are the Roth. That was the times of the when everyone was hanging out of the window at college. Oh, I know the name at U of T. The residence there on St. George and there. It was a crazy time. Lots of protests.
Time, right?
It was like hippie stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's and I'm looking. I'm going. Wait a second. That makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense to me. I grew up.
Rochdale College.
Rochdale, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up under the understanding that, you plant a seed, you grow a tomato plant, and you've got tomato sauce for all winter,
Yeah, that's how you feed your family,
right?
and put them through college.
So
buy a house.
I knew I was going to be a painter, and I wanted to be a painter. I had this very deeply committed conviction, to sort of produce, a body of work that was reflective of my experience, my life.
Yeah.
But I'm 19 years old, right? I'm just about to, by the time I graduate, I was going to be, 22? I'm thinking, how am I going to make a living? How am I going to get this going? How am I going to build my chops up? Because I figured this is a long road. This journey,
and
right?
experience does count for something in art, music, whatever. You need the life.
Well,
sometimes you need that life experience too.
Well, and practice, professional practice and training. So this attitude, and back in the days there was a strong at OCAD. There was a strong prejudice between the fine art that were stuck in the 15th century, and the French salons. The experimental that was, thinking progressively into the modern, postmodern era, and the advertising applied, right? That was very much part of the publishing, magazine, advertising, right? And we were coming through a pretty nice golden era of advertising. Advertising was very exciting in the 60s, 70s. It influenced me majorly, right?
A lot of changes in advertising back then where you were able to do more, cross more lines.
Big time, right? So, so I kind of was evaluating all these things, and I started seeing some of my friends get scholarships to go work in advertising agencies. And I was very curious about that because I loved advertising, and the billboards. Remember the Coppertone girl?
Oh yeah!
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Like to me, that was a masterpiece. Those
little
billboards,
so
they were masterpieces,
they
right?
were.
And great classic illustration, that came out of, advertising and the gas stations and the oil companies and so on and so forth, right? So I went to go visit this friend of mine who got a scholarship at Doyle, Dane and Bernbach on the 21st floor of the Xerox building at Yonge and Bloor. And, I went to say, what do you do all day? And he says, well, they pay me to draw.
Well, that's okay.
And I said, what? I said, yeah. And he showed me all his fancy markers and pads. And I went, wow, this is the way.
Yeah.
Right? I'll get a job in an advertising agency drawing all day long. And I'm thinking to myself, win-win. I'm getting paid. I'm learning my craft.
You got a job.
I got a job. And of course, the first thing my colleagues said, you're a sellout, this and that. I never saw it that way. I saw that I was an immature young child entering into the world. I had a long journey ahead of me. And I needed to get strong, resilient, and find out what I was made out of. And what better place than to jump into an advertising agency with pressure deadlines, talented people, competitive industry. You got to be good.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise they don't pay you.
No. And this is during the time when we had print.
Print
print advertising.
Yeah, there was no there was no internet.
No. This was all with ruling pens and with ink
ruling
and
pens. That's right.
It was grunt work.
So I made it my mission when I graduated to find a job in advertising, and I think it was about 4 months after I graduated, I got my first job at Goodis Wolf Advertising, and I got a studio on the 21st floor of the Continental Bank building on Bay Street, looking over Lake Ontario, and I was getting paid to draw.
Yeah. Oh, that's a panacea. That doesn't happen for artists now, necessarily.
Does
it? Or
sure it does.
You teach.
You got to go looking for it.
Yeah.
Though.
Okay. Let's go there. We were going to go to break in about 3 minutes, but you you teach art.
I'm a professor
of art
at the School of Design, George Brown College. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So what's it like for the kids going out into the world now?
Well, it's a much more lucid world. It's moving. It's a moving target. And obviously it's much more difficult to get permanent positions. Permanent positions are dependent on controlled volume. You know that a certain amount of work has to go through, and you have to have people. But now with the technological age upon us, the digital age, things are more lucid, right? They're more fluid. So things come and then they go, right? And businesses are not looking to take on overhead.
No, because they can hire someone on a contract basis.
Exactly. So it's much more challenging that way, but the mechanics are the same.
Okay. You got to know your craft.
You got to know your craft. You got to develop relationships with people.
Yes.
And develop the trust. It's not just about your portfolio. It's the trust, because, you got a campaign and you got to deliver, tomorrow morning, 3 storyboards, 5 storyboards, a whole campaign.
Yeah.
People got to know that you're going to toe the line and be there at the end and get it done.
Yeah, and how are you finding the climate now? It's a different. There's a different philosophy, a different attitude. I find in our society now. We're not. It's not what it was in the 60s, 70s, 50s, whatever. Post-war, like we're the boomers, right? We're the boomers.
Well, the big change really, which I figured this out later in my life again because I never had, sponsorship or people in my family that had experience in publishing or advertising, is basically now Canada used to live and work under a protected cultural environment.
Okay, well, we're going to go to a protected ad right now. We'll be right back after this with a couple of songs, and we're going to talk more about this because this is important for people to hear. So we're here with Vince Mancuso. If you're just tuning in now, and it is now 7:27 here at CHHA 1610 AM, and I believe it's 16 degrees out there. We're going to have a nice week, though, of weather. So we're going to go to break, and after we come back, we're going to come back with another surprising song for you, one called Driver's Seat. It's a I'm
looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's
Driver's Seat, baby.
Yeah, well, wait, you're going to have to listen to the words really closely, but they're a British group. Anyway, we're going to come back right after this.
CHHA 1610 AM, the first and only Hispanic radio station in Canada from Toronto to the world.
You are listening to The Joyce Aldrich Show at CHHA 1610 AM, la voz de la comunidad, Toronto.
Doing alright.
hanging out on the scene. You said I'm heavyweight contender to the Hollywood queen. Well, I became a vegetarian, but I still eat meat. My bouffant hairdo is coated in gold, and I can do the Harlem Shake like I'm gonna explode. I said, whoa, it's a Hollywood breakdown. Just got engaged to the Bachelor of the Week. Got our pictures on the cover of People magazine saying I was the one and he loved me so. We're gonna have a big wedding in the Hollywood Bowl. Inviting all the papers and celebrities, and when they see my fawn dress they're gonna fall on their knees. I said, whoa, it's a Hollywood breakdown. Heading down Rodeo in a golden Cadillac. Got stood by the ride on our backs. And yeah, the thing will be as happy as us. Kings of the Cabana on Sunset Strip. I'm gonna make my mark before I leave this world, like Gangnam Style and the Material Girl. I said, whoa, it's a Hollywood breakdown. All right. Been married for a week, yeah. Our pictures on the cover of every magazine saying how you fell in love with a new girl on the scene. She's a heavyweight contender to the Hollywood queen. Peruvian extensions down to her toes and those Botox lips, but shh, nobody knows. I said, whoa, I had a Hollywood breakdown. I'm wearing an apron at the burger barn, 'cause I blew all my money on this cocaine nose job. At least I could smile and laugh at defeat. Became a vegetarian, but still eat meat. Maybe I should head back to New Orleans and contemplate what life really means. Said, whoa, I had a Hollywood breakdown.
And that was Hollywood Breakdown. That was Hanan Gantz Ben-Ami. And before that, that was Driver's Seat by Sniffin' the Tears. And they released that as a single from their album Fickle Heart back in 1978. And there you go, Vince. And
wow. You got my V8 going there, Joyce, man.
Well, I know how much you love cars. And here's a surprise. Do you know who Hanan Gantz is? Ben-Ami. You know him.
Yeah?
You do. That hot Hollywood Breakdown song. Remember 3SK Cafe?
Yeah.
Him.
Huh.
The people. He's now in Seattle, and he's got a great band out there, and he's doing the rabbi thing out there as well. And yeah, super. He's,
I mean, isn't that like,
amazing?
You see, we talk about my painting. I don't as studied as I am. Because I'm a huge history buff and I read and
you're well read.
But when I create, it's very guttural and it's very unconscious. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's like, and the music that you've been playing has just been because you feel it in your gut, right?
Yeah,
that bass, the backbeat, those riffs, right? That groove, right? I'm all about that. Yeah. I'm not complicated in that way. The world can be complicated. Things are complicated.
Very.
But I like it real and tasty.
Yeah.
And I love those tunes, man. You're getting me so charged up. That's just so much fun.
Well, before we start talking more about your art, I want people to be able to go to a couple of websites so they can see your artwork.
Sure.
I want to send them to vincemancuso.art.
.art. That's where the fine art.
Yeah, that's where the fine art is.
Yeah.
And there's where your general information is vincemancuso.com. So that's
.com's all my illustration and storyboard work.
Yeah.
Which I love. I still do that even though I started in advertising as a stepping stone. Mm-hmm. I have to honestly say I loved the people and the energy, right? And the pressure and the fact that the industry was based on, you had to be good. Mm-hmm. Okay? This was about being good. You had to be top of the game, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I loved that. I loved working hard. I loved being competitive, and I loved pitting myself against some of the best. So even though I went into the fine arts and I am now very much focused on my painting and my work, at
Yep.
this stage in my life, I love those industries. I've never left them. I've always kept working, because they were applied.
Yes.
They had a purpose. They had an audience. This is very important, this idea of audience and connecting and communicating and providing for that audience,
Well, yeah, and also when you're making storyboards, you can't just diddle around. You've got to be able to.
No, you don't diddle around.
You've got to completely. It's got to come out of your brain to your hand to the board quickly, and you've got to be fast doing that. And I am amazed by. Well, I'm just going to say, when I was wanting to do a video, and you said, I got some ideas, and you sat there with a piece of paper and just drew a storyboard for the entire video, this and everything, so detailed. And I thought, my gosh, you did that in like less than 15 minutes. And it was like, and then you sit in the subways and you draw people. You are with with your pen and ink, which you absolutely, this is
my
like
fountain pens.
Your fountain pens, your beautiful, beautiful fountain pens that you absolutely adore, and that are part of you, an extension of who you are and how you create.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, it's all of those things that you learned in those days.
Here's something that's very important. Very
brought you to this
important.
point.
Here's something that's very important, and I think the postmodern mindset, the academic postmodern, has completely gone off the rails here. And I'm gonna quote Matisse, because Matisse, the French painter, was once asked, if you had some advice to give to young artists coming after you, what would you say? And Matisse pointed out, he said, the thing that concerns me is that I'm afraid that the next generation is just going to come along and think that they can just pick up where we have left off, or the territories that we forged into, with our work and with our theories and so on. And he said, that concerns me. He goes, because that would be a big mistake. They have to learn those fundamentals first.
Picasso did.
Well, they all did.
They were all classical artists.
Well, see, I don't like the term classical.
Classical, no,
because that grinds it into Renaissance ideologies. We're talking here the fundamentals of scale, proportion, right? Accuracy, right?
Skills that you learn.
The demands of working as a concept illustrator meant that you had to draw proportionately accurate things. In line art, you had to create things that looked realistic to a layman, who may have been, the head of a company of orange juice or whatever, and they could understand what you're trying to draw.
And from every angle. Well, of course. Like people don't realize it. From the top, from the bottom, from the left, from the right, from the up.
Yeah.
Every possible human angle.
As a storyboard artist, your responsibility is to visualize the cinematic sequence and provide the cinematographer and the director accurate camera angles, accurate perspectives, and accurate proportions, frame by frame.
Oof.
Okay, so this requires a technical expertise. I like to, the curriculum that I created at George Brown is based around this. It's structural geometry.
Right.
You gotta be able to draw a cube accurately. You got to be able to slice it and dice it in proportion. You got to be able to fuse it together with a sphere and a cylinder accurately. And when you do that, and then you apply scale and proportions, now you can draw anything realistically.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fundamental. Now, it doesn't mean, as a creative artist, that you have to create with those criterias, you see. When you create now, you go wherever your creative channeling has to take you.
Yeah.
But in your training and in your practice, how do you know when you're sharp and you're with it? Hey, when you can draw those geometric forms accurately in complex situations and make them absolutely identifiable, then you know you're on your game.
Yeah.
See, and that's what Matisse was saying. All the expression, all the freedom is nothing if you do not have a solid reference point that you can check yourself to see if you're on your game.
Yeah, it's not just about splashing paint onto a canvas.
No,
I know. I'm just, oh well, that's my creation.
No.
I know. I'm just saying. But but there are people.
I had a kid one time come to me, years ago and said, "Hey, sir, you want to check out my art?" And she said, "Sure, absolutely." And they said, "What do you think? This is my art." I said, "Is that what you call it?" And she looked at me.
No.
And she, well, because it wasn't.
I know. I'm just saying you were truthful.
Always.
Yes, good.
Yeah, not to bring anybody down, but you always have to be honest, right? In an objective way. Otherwise, how can you learn and grow?
Well, you can't learn and grow. Speaking of learning and growing, we're going to cut to commercial in a few seconds, but want to continue with this. We're going to play one of your brother's songs when we coming out of break, and then we'll continue this discussion right after that. Okay, because this is important. Okay. So many things we can talk about. I've got up here on your website, but you know what? This is key. People need to hear this, especially kids going into who want to be artists. Anyone who wants to be an artist, young and old. So we're going to go to break now and come back with a little bit of Dom's music.
Right on.
Yeah, right on.
From Toronto, Canada, CHHA 1610 AM, the voice of our community, because we are a part of your daily life.
Vieni la notte, vieni di lontano, vieni l'oscuro sopra i nostri mani, aspettiamo lo sole e pensieri lontani, aspettiamo noi giorno, aspettiamo domani, e avemo ancora la canzone di cantare, ancora una storia di contare, ma non sappiamo niente e non sappiamo che fare, non abbiamo più ali per poter ancora volare. Ti volessi incontrare un giorno sotto un opportuni, ti volessi parlare o cantare una canzone e potessi partire senza tornare arreri, o potessi arrivare fino ai tuoi pensieri, ma avemmo tutti la canzone di cantare, come vediamo ancora persone sopra il mare e ne sostiamo ancora e non ne pare vero, che siamo contenti poi di sera torna l'oscuro. Amore da cuore, amore che non senti, amore che ascolti, che non dici niente. Ti volessi dare un'ora di pazzia e mi ritocchi di tagliare a mia. Se avessimo tutti la canzone di cantare, ancora una storia di poter capire che si vede l'oscuro sopra i nostri mani, sta storia una compagna e fino a che vedi l'uscio che cantiamo.
7:49 here at CHHA 1610 AM, and I have Vince Mancuso in studio, and we're having a marvelous discussion. And if you want to see any of his art, which I would highly recommend, go to vincemancuso.art and look at his work. His fine art is wonderful, and your work incorporates well, first of all, heroes. Heroes are important to you.
Heroes are important.
Heroes are important to you, and heroes, and also you have the influences of Titian, I believe, as well in your work, and also the Italian kind of industrial kind of.
Well, I'll tell you, you mentioned Titian,
like the dark.
And I would not say Titian. To me, Tintoretto.
Tintoretto. That's what I meant. I knew it was a T word. Tintoretto. Yes, Tintoretto.
Right? Tintoretto.
That's what I was thinking of. Really.
I want to point out something that's very important there. You know, because in that sort of post-Renaissance era, as you know, we were starting to move into the age of the Baroque and so on and so forth. You know, there were the artists that were very realistically oriented. You know, they were trying to create a type of cinematic photorealism in their painting. Mm-hmm. You know, Titian would fall in that category for me. Caravaggio would fall into that.
I was thinking of the chiaroscuro. That's where I was coming
that's from. That's Caravaggio, right?
That's what I was thinking.
And Caravaggio created extraordinarily powerful cinematic photographic chiaroscuro paintings. I was never interested in that. Never. What I was more fascinated was with people like El Greco and Tintoretto, who were taking the idea of natural phenomena that we experience as human beings, you know, light, shade, form, and so on, but then taking it through a expressive, imaginative filter, so that all of a sudden it was otherworldly. Okay?
Yeah.
It didn't give you the reality that we knew. It gave you the reality that we imagine is there. Okay? And that's a very distinctive separation, you know, because it's not realism based, right? It's expressionistically based, right? It's cartoony. It's stylized, right?
Yes. I'm looking at El Greco in my mind.
Yeah, you remember those kind of curvy, elongated, almost like rubber people, you know, like fluid people, right?
Yeah.
And this is the thing that the modernists like Picasso and Matisse, Cézanne, this is what they tapped into when they were, you know, and El Greco was painting in the 1600s, okay?
Yeah.
And they cite him
ahead of his time,
completely. Yeah. And the modernists talk about him as a major player in the development of modernity. You know, these are my kind of guys.
Yeah, exactly. But we've got so little time. We've got like maybe just another 6 minutes in this hour. But you know, there's also the fact that you love Batman. You love hockey. I want to talk about hockey
Batman.
tonight
so
too.
Let's talk about Batman, okay?
Yeah.
You know, let's like Greek mythology. I'm Sicilian.
Yes.
Okay. And the Greeks had a big stake in the island of Sicily. Greek mythology, Byzantine mythology, Moorish mythology, you know, is all over the island, right? Stories of heroism, you know, tragedies, and so on and so forth, right? So that was a big part of my education, right? You know, Catholicism, the lives of the saints.
Yeah.
Okay? These were basically, you know, heroic narratives. Okay, so now you push forward into the 20th century, and it's a modern world with machines and technology and guns and very, very, you know, nuclear bombs and so on and so forth. So now the mythology is still the same. Achilles and Batman are the same. Okay, it's just different epochs. Okay, so Batman for me was the superhero who spoke to me as a child because I've always related to tragedy. You know, the loss of his parents, an orphan, up against it, okay? Human, vulnerable. And he pushes himself to be better than he's ever been, right? And he works hard, right? And he makes himself into this warrior, detective, right? Champion, right?
Yeah.
For the downtrodden, kind of thing. That was it. I was done. I was an 8-year-old kid running around with a Batman cape and a Batman mask in the neighborhood, and the little Italian grandmothers used to laugh at me, thinking I was Lulu. But man, I wanted and believed that I could be Batman.
Yeah. And he appears in a lot of your paintings.
Of course.
Absolutely.
He's an extension of my alter ego, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I derive strength from Batman.
And the way you also paint hockey players.
Hockey play. Well, the hockey players similarly, especially the goalies.
Yeah.
Okay. The goalies, to me, are passive, aggressive warriors. Right? Think about what the goalie does. The goalie does not attack the opposing team. The goalie
defending.
sacrifices their body and themselves, right, in servitude for their team,
Right.
to protect the home. Right?
Yeah.
If you think of the net as the inner circle of the tribe, right?
Yeah.
They are putting themselves on the line. Well, I could not imagine a more nobler cause. So they are sacred to me, I relate to the goalie as Saint Sebastian, Catholic saint who was, interestingly enough, he's pinned with arrows.
Yes,
right?
yes. And you have a painting like that.
I do.
And that is at vincemancuso.art, is it not?
.art, yeah.
Yes. People got to look at that.
The interesting thing, the truth of it, though, was he never died from being shot with the arrows.
No?
He actually died 2 years later when he accused the monarch, right, of being corrupt, and the monarch bludgeoned him to death right in front of him. Isn't that interesting? He never died from being used as target practice.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
It's crazy.
But it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. What I want to do, and I know you got a movie and family waiting for you at home.
Yeah.
Can we go into the next hour? I've got music playing and everything there, and we'll continue this conversation in little spurts in there. But I'm going to officially thank you, because the podcast I do is usually the first hour. So I'm going to officially thank you for coming in tonight to
thank
join
you for
us.
having me.
And to go to vincemancuso.com and also vincemancuso.art, A-R-T. And to encourage people to buy original art. And they can buy your pieces. They're beautiful.
They sure can. Everything's available, that's for sure.
I bought a print.
You do.
I love it. I love it.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk about it a little bit later. But we're going to be going to break now, and then we're going to be coming back with some Edward Bear. Do you remember Edward Bear?
I do.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to be good. We're going to do a back-to-back Edward Bear, about going, this kind of is Mother's Day. So,
It's Mother's
but
Day.
for those people who have
Happy
mothers,
Mother's Day.
mothers across the sea or who have passed on, and people who are being missed.
My favorite line about mothers is that mama is the first and the last word.
Oh, that's very beautiful.
Yeah. I think about this and I think about my mother all the time. God bless her.
Amen. Yeah. Well, we're going to honor some moms in the next set in fun
Sounds
ways,
good to me.
in interesting ways, and schlocky ways in every way. Right after this.
Listen to us all around the world. Visit chha1610am.ca for new content daily.